Hi and welcome to the Malat cookery channel. I've been asked at very short notice to make a dessert for the evening meal for tonight. Now, one thing I haven't made for absolutely ages is a traditional apple pie. So that's what we're going to be doing today. I thought I'd set the video camera up so show you guys exactly how I go about making an apple pie. As usual, a full list of ingredients are given at the end of the video. So let's start by having a look at what those ingredients are, what we're going to need for today. Right, so what we're going to need for today's recipe is 700 grams of apple slices. Now, I hate recipes that give you that measurement but don't tell you exactly how much of the raw material you're going to need. So I've done that, I've worked it out. By the way, these apple slices are just sat in some cold water with some lemon juice added just to stop them from going brown. So for 700 grams of apple slices, we actually need about 9 standard size apples, and the type of apple that you use is entirely up to you. I've just used apples that we've got in, mainly Braeburns that I've used to actually slice up. So this is a standard size apple from the supermarket. This is a Braeburn. It weighs about 130 grams. So when I've cored and peeled this apple, this size of apple, I'm actually getting about 80 grams of apple slices. So for 700 grams of apple slices, I've actually used about 9 apples. I've got 75 grams of soft, light brown sugar. I've got 1 egg with some milk added, and this has been beaten, and this is going to be the egg wash for the top of the pie. I've got 1 tablespoon of plain flour and half a teaspoon of cinnamon. I've got some granulated sugar, so there's about a tablespoon of granulated sugar there, just white granulated sugar. That's going to be sprinkled over the top of the pie. Rather than make the pastry myself, I haven't got time to do that. So we've got a standard block of short crust ready-made pastry, 500 gram block. There's going to be more than enough to do this pie. This pie is a traditional double crust pie. So what that means is we're going to have a layer of pastry actually lining the dish. Put the filling in and then a layer of pastry over the top. That's where the double crust comes from. And a traditional apple pie is normally short crust pastry, not puff pastry. So there's more than enough to do it there. Once I've finished and I've got pastry left over, which I should have, I'm going to place it into cling film and place it into the freezer to use next time. This dish is a 20 centimeter by 4 centimeter deep dish, and it has been well buttered. There's nothing worse than doing some really nice stuff and then finding out that it's actually welded to the oven-proof dish. So this has been well buttered, 20 centimeter by 4 centimeter deep oven-proof dish. First thing we need to do then is to lightly flour a clean work surface. So this is just some plain flour. And then I'm going to take the pastry and roughly divide it in 2. I'm going to place half the pastry back in the pack and put this into the fridge for later. So we take our block, take a rolling pin and flour that as well, and we just want to roll this pastry out until it's about 2 millimeters thick. Okay, so once we've done that, we need to get the layer of pastry into the oven-proof dish. And the way to do that is to roll the pastry over the actual rolling pin, find roughly where the edge is, and then just gently allow the pastry to fall in. And pick one corner up, and then work at opposite ends. So we've done this corner, lifted it up, allowed it to drop in. Don't push down on the pastry. Lift this corner, allow that to drop in, then work from here and then on this side, and just keep doing that until there are no air gaps at all around the actual dish. So there's no pockets of air at all that you can feel. So once we've done that, the next thing to do is to actually trim it. So pick it up and just use a knife to go around the edge. Okay, so that's what we should end up with. Just smooth out any of the creases. And that's ready now for the filling to go in. So these are our apples now which have been drained, well drained. They go into a bowl. And the next thing we want to do is to add those dry ingredients into there, which is the sugar, the plain flour and the cinnamon. But it's always good practice, if you've got dry ingredients to go into something like apples or potatoes or whatever you're using, mix the dry ingredients first before they go in. I see quite a lot where people add, say, sugar, then add the cinnamon, then add the flour or whatever you're using, and it can't possibly be a complete mix. It can't be an even mix all over the things like the apples. So it's easier just to add all of the ingredients together first, all of the dry ingredients, and then just mix those in. So now those dry ingredients are well mixed together, we can now add those to the apple. And then we just make sure that the apple is well coated with that sugar mix. Adding the plain flour to this mix, what happens is, as the juices come out of the actual apples, the plain flour cooks through and actually thickens those juices, so you don't end up with a soggy mess at the bottom of your apple pie. Next thing we want to do is to line the actual pie dish itself. And don't just throw this in. Take a little bit of time to actually place these slices in correctly. That means there will be less air spaces between them, which will produce a much better filling. Okay, so we've now filled the dish up with the apple slices. We've got a lot of juice left over. Just take 2 tablespoons of it, that's all. Don't be tempted to pour it all in. And just go over the top of the apple with that. The next thing we want to do is obviously cover the apple slices now with the next layer of pastry. So the next thing I'm going to do is to actually cover the filling with pastry, but I'm not going to do a standard pastry top. I'm going to do a leaf design top. So we're going to start with the piece of pastry that was left over from when we trimmed around the edge. I'm just going to flatten that down as I did with the piece of pastry that we lined the base with, just to about 2 millimeters in thickness. Okay, I'm going to take a sharp knife, and then I'm going to do just the outside edge of a leaf design, about 4 centimeters in length. Turn the knife over, and then just with the back of the knife, score down the center of the leaf shape, and then put 1, 2 cuts in there, and then stagger these 2 cuts in there. So we have just a basic leaf design, and then that's going to go onto the outside edge of the pie itself. I'm going to line this now, a full ring of leaves along the outside edge, and then carry on into the center. It does take a little bit of time, but trust me, it's well worth it. So the next one goes next to it, just overlaps slightly. And we just carry on doing that. So that's the last one for the first layer. So as you can see, I've just overlapped them as we go around, a little bit at a time. The next layer, which is obviously further in towards the centre of the pie, what I'm aiming to do is to get the next leaf halfway up the first layer and then in the centre. So you've got 2 leaves like that, the next one will lie here. And we'll come in a little bit more. I reckon there'll just be 3 layers or 3 rings of pastry leaves on here. And you just carry on again, just working your way around. And then the last ring will go over the top again in the center of 2 leaves and just go around again. So that's the last leaf. On the second ring, we've just got 1 more ring to do. Well, so that's the final leaves put on. This is what we end up with. So the next thing I'm going to do is to just put the egg wash over the top and then into a preheated oven, 180 degrees, and this is going to cook for about 1 hour and 15 minutes to 1 hour 30. We'll just keep monitoring it, make sure it doesn't burn, and then it should be ready to serve. So once that's covered with egg wash, next thing to do, just a sprinkle with the granulated sugar. So that's it, the apple pie is cooked. It took 1 hour and 20 minutes at 180 degrees centigrade. I'll have to show you what it looks like now. So that's the actual apple pie cooked. Hopefully it'll come out on the video. It looks on the video as good as it does in real life. I can smell the cinnamon and the apple, smells absolutely gorgeous. Unfortunately, this is now going to become the centerpiece after dinner tonight for the dessert. So I'm not allowed to touch it. It'll get placed into the center of the table. We've got some homemade vanilla ice cream. I'll do another video on how to make that. We've got that to accompany it. And that's it. So please subscribe to the channel. And if you've enjoyed the video, hit the like button. Thanks for watching.